Okay. So this recording is just going to be playing in the background, so there will be some moments of silence, even long ones. But this is to ensure that I can capture things that I randomly say when I'm not doing anything. So this is a way of capturing somewhat of a stream of consciousness. Um, but also I'm going to be writing down some questions right now that I will be asking people, which I will be bringing into the studio and then asking them these questions, hoping to get a specific response from them or to get a random response from them. So this is, I'm going to have casual conversations, random statements, just whatever at this point. I want the conversation to be structured but also spontaneous, so that it allows for all sorts of dynamics to play out, and emotions and reactions, so that maybe I can play around with them in some way in the recording. I'm thinking of just mashing a bunch of sounds together, maybe specific words together from different people and responses. We'll see. But anyways, I'm gonna do that thing now. Actually, I'm curious if I can move the microphone closer to myself. Can I do that? I'm not sure if I can do that. Okay, if I can't do that, then I will have to move the notebook closer to the microphone, because I would like to capture scribbling sounds. Okay, so I'm thinking of just discussing the topic of Christianity and themes within that with a friend, because they are Christian themselves, and so this would result in commentary that is similar to what I believe and would help me to express things that I would say through another person. So even though I'm asking them something, I could also maybe make them ask me the same questions after I interview them, so that I would have a similar response, and then yeah, I could like merge both opinions into one audio track, which contain things that I believe and want to share, instead of it just being someone else communicates that for me. Though there's nothing bad with that necessarily either. Um, so, what I would discuss within Christianity would be who God is, the being of God, and our relationship with Him, because my work centers around that, centers around trying to express and communicate what a relationship with God looks like, and various truths that are in the Spirit, various things that are true in relation to our relationship with God, what that looks like, how it works, even though part of it is mysterious, which is why I like to have a mysterious element to my work. Though I'm not entirely sure how I would incorporate that mystery into my work yet, but I have some ideas. That being not not giving clarity directly, but rather indirectly, using symbolism perhaps, because that's something I also like to do, and it also just works well with what the Bible does. It uses symbols as well to communicate the things that it wants to. So I would do likewise. The sound of art. I was just recording sounds of scribbling because the pen wasn't that audible, but maybe it could be if I increase the volume, like I did with the pencil scribbling. The way in which I would use these audios is uncertain to me still. I have some ideas though, how I could use the various sounds apart from the voice recordings in my work. Like I briefly mentioned in my last project, I was thinking of attaching sounds to the work. So let's say I have a canvas, for example, a painting, and I wanted to attach a sound with that work. There could be a button that activates a sound, which would make the work interactive. However, considering in this project I have found out about sensors, I think using sensors in my work is also a possibility. I could use sensors to perhaps splash water on people when they come into proximity of the artwork, or paint. But when considering this with a friend, I was told that maybe a warning sign would need to be presented first beforehand, considering people could be wearing expensive technology and equipment like cameras on them. So, water being splashed on them would be more harmful than maybe intended. Because the intention of this in my head was to create an element of surprise and shock. It also seems slightly humorous. I believe clowns would do this in the circus or something, or they would have this device, a flower-looking thing that would squirt water. Um, my work doesn't intend to be comedic, but sometimes things that are ironic can seem humorous to me personally, and I do find a lot of irony present in themes related to Christianity or theology or other philosophy. So, like, things that maybe seem contradictory can seem ironic, for example. I'd have to think for a moment to give you more specific examples off the top of my head. But I do think that there are a lot of complex thoughts that appear contradictory but actually are true. I don't know how to explain myself. So how do I explain this? So some people think contradictions cannot exist. The fact that a contradiction is present means that, like, that doesn't make something true. But I suggest that a contradiction is not invalid, but a contradiction, meaning where something can be true and something can be false, can be present at the same time. So I think there are certain things that can be both true and false at the same time, and that doesn't necessarily make it wrong, but would rather show complexity instead. Because the more complex something is, I think there's more variables that are underneath the surface that would affect a surface perception of said thing. However, going back to the sensor thing, I am aware there are different kinds of sensors, but if I were to use any sensors in my work, it would probably one relating to how close someone is to something. Yeah, so when someone steps into a location wherein my work is, that could activate music in the background, or that could activate music that would be attached to the work. Maybe there could be a button and a sensor at the same time, but the sensor could automatically click the button. On the other hand, that seems pointless though, because there is no interactivity involved with that if the clicking of the button is not made by the human interacting with the work.